All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to this PDPA Compliance webinar organized by the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry together with Obidin Private Limited. We have with us today very experienced speakers from Obidin and our very own Assistant Treasurer and Board Director, Dr. Zaba Ali, to open today's session. Dr. Ali is a chartered accountant with over 40 years of external, internal audit and management consulting experiences globally, and is currently the managing partner of Raffles CA LLP Singapore. He's a member of various professional bodies worldwide and has represented Singapore on strategic management issues as a speaker and had presented various papers in forums and conferences on varied topics. His other appointments include Chartered President of ACCA Toastmasters International and Chartered President of Association of Work-Life Professionals. With that, I would now like to invite Dr. Zaba Ali to open today's webinar. Dr. Ali, please.
Thank you, Gauri. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are settled after your lunch, and very good afternoon to every one of you present and connected on this session today. Welcome to this collaborative webinar between the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Obidin Private Limited, which today's topic is PDPA compliance. You will be able to understand why it is important and how it impacts your business. So it's one of the sessions that you will be able to listen to our experts here today. You've got a couple of them. You have Stuart, you have Sam, Novia, and all that from the same company. So let's hear from them. And before we start, I also like to add that it's actually a challenging period at the moment. So a lot of businesses and every business is really looking into the future. And for those of you who may be unaware, SICCI has served the needs of local Indian businesses and business community at large since 1924. SICCI strives to give its members a competitive edge in the global market by providing them with diverse insights, connections, and support services. This includes trade and job matching, business advisory, networking sessions, seminars, and skills training. SICCI aims to be the gateway of opportunity for Indian businesses in Singapore, helping both homegrown and international companies realize the full potential. We have a SME center which has customized information services for SMEs. SICCI has also established an international business division to serve the globalization needs of local companies. With such services, SICCI hopes to further its members' interests. As the title of today's webinar suggests, this discussion is centered around the Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA Act, which ensures the security of one's personal information. The Singapore government takes personal data very seriously and emphasizes the need for such information to be secure to ensure the privacy of individuals. All businesses and organizations operating in Singapore must take great care to abide by the PDPA guidelines and rules. The PDPA was recently revised, and it can often be challenging for businesses and organizations to make sense of the challenges and how they can adhere to the updated best practices in the industry. To help us understand the changes and how we can all ensure we adhere to the PDPA guidelines, we have esteemed speakers from Obidin Private Limited today. I believe as the business community enters a phase of recovery from COVID-19 and continue to digitalize data protection will become increasingly vital. Thus, information on best practices, enforcement guidelines will be invaluable. I do hope all of you will find today's session very beneficial to you and to the business. With that, I would like to hand over the time to our moderator, Ms. Novia, to take over and continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. I hope you all enjoyed his amazing speech. Well, good afternoon, everyone. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Novia, and I'm from Obidin. I'll be responsible for hosting these presentations today, and I'm very, very glad to welcome all of you, the members of SICI. And I would also like to introduce Obidin CEO, Stuart, who will provide a brief description on Obidin and its services. Stuart, please.
Thank you, Nivea. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stuart, and I am the co-founder of Obidin. I've personally worked in startups, consultancies, and enterprise-level companies in the financial, medical, and telecom space for over 30 years. As part of that, we, like you, have worked in building our own companies, and as part of that, provided consultancy services to SMEs worldwide in technology, innovation, compliance, and process. In almost all of the companies we've dealt with, we noted that one of their major pain points was data compliance for PDPA, for GDPR in the UK and EU, and more, either in the understanding, the implementation, or in most cases, both. There seemed to be two distinct ways of handling this. Either they were spending a small fortune on external lawyers and consultants that were not providing usable or repeatable results, mostly just opinions, or worse, they were actively ignoring data compliance. As an example, almost 50% of companies in Europe are not, sorry about that. Almost 50% of compliance companies in Europe are not GDPR compliant. And this was introduced in 2018. This meant either companies did not understand or even want to understand data compliance, as it was viewed more as a hindrance to building and developing their companies. They were mostly unwilling due to the cost and perceived effort to build data compliance into the DNA of their company's ecosystem, to protect their own data or the data of their customers. But data compliance is way too risky to ignore, in both in terms of the fines and bad publicity that leads from the mishandling of data. So it is very important to implement compliance in an effective way. So we formed Obidin to provide a simple, cost-effective way for SMEs to achieve and maintain data compliance by giving companies a single place to manage data compliance for themselves, their customers, and their suppliers. The Obidin Compliance Platform provides an easy-to-use software-as-a-service platform where you can develop your data protection management policy for your company, where you can understand and track your data and your risks, where you can access policies and standard operating procedures for data compliance, where you can assess your vendors, where you can educate your employees, and much, much more. Many platforms approach PDPA from a legal standpoint, but the reality is that unless you have clear guidance on how to implement PDPA, you will fall short of your obligations. Just having a legal agreement in place does not make you compliant. So the Obidin platform focuses on the implementation and ensures that legal elements are introduced into the context of the whole process. And when I say you, that means your employees too. Do they know what they need to do in regards to data compliance? The key thing is, so when the PDPC come calling, you can show how you and your company have worked for and achieved data compliance. And importantly, how you are maintaining it to protect you and your customers. And these days, this is becoming more and more important. All you have to do is just look at the news. And with that, I'll hand it back to Navia.
Thank you so much. Well, now without further ado, I really would like to welcome Sam, the star of the day today. And Sam will present a special briefing on PDPA compliance and how it is critical for SMEs to understand why it is important and how it will impact your business. Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks, Novia. Hi, a warm welcome to all of you who have joined today, and a big thank you to SICCI for inviting us to speak to all of you, those who have signed up today. So I'm Sam Lianagi, and I'm the regional head for data privacy at Obidin Private Limited. And I count for over 15 plus years of experience, combined experience in data protection, cybersecurity, privacy, brand marketing, and advertising. And I was instrumental in setting up 3 startups in 2 geographies. And currently I advise startups, SMEs, and even MNCs on their privacy strategy and provide guidance on global and local privacy regulations. So that's about me. So let's see what's the agenda today, and then let me go through with you some of the key important features that is available today. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 important elements which PDPC has introduced, which is the 11 obligations and the DMC registry, as well as the appointment of the DPO. So let's go through this one by one. So what is Singapore PDPA? Now, I'm sure you by now you have some understanding of Singapore's PDPA through media and other communications. So let me run through with you what are the key areas that you need to pay attention in relation to the Singapore's PDPA Act. Now, bear in mind, the Singapore PDPA Act applies to all the organizations and businesses that are based in Singapore here, and it also includes not-for-profit organizations as well. So if you're a charitable organization and your business intention is not profits, but social service, then you will still got to make sure that you oblige the PDPA regulations and ensure that you safeguard personal details of your donors and recipients. So as an organization operating in Singapore, you will require to comply with 11 obligations set out by the PDPC. So let's look at these in details. Now, if you are collecting and processing or storing personal information, not just your customers, but even your staff, for your staff, you have to adhere to all these 11 obligations. Now, if you see here, there are three columns which are color coded. Let's look at the first column, which has on the top, in the left hand side, you see there are 3 obligations listed there, which is notification, consent, and purpose limitations. So under notification, it's all about like informing your audience why you are collecting personal data and personal information. Consent obligation looks at that you ensure that you have the consent from the people that you're collecting information, and that you have consent to use these details and the ability to provide evidence if they have given you consent for the matter that they have requested. Then the last obligation in that column refers to purpose limitation, which means that you cannot use information other than for the purpose what they were collected for. So, and then if you look at the middle column, which is in the orange, which is marked in orange, you will see there are 4 obligations listed there. So let's look at the accuracy obligation. Yeah, accuracy obligation means that you put in processes to ensure that data are accurate. And a simple example, if I can bring it to you, is that if you record a wrong postal code against one of your customers, and if you're sending him a monthly bill, it can only reach to a wrong recipient. And so bear in mind that you have the responsibility to ensure that you have the accurate information of your customers. Then how about the protection obligation? It simply means like you're making reasonable security measures to safeguard the information that you have at hand. The retention limitation refers to that you should not keep personal data if it's no longer necessary. Now, again, an example I can give you here is like, let's say that you had a contract with StarHub and you decide to switch to another telecom provider, then StarHub should not keep your data forever and forever. Then finally, on the column, we have the transfer limitation, which refers to a transferring of data according to the requirements prescribed under the regulations by Singapore's PDPA and other jurisdictions that you have presence. Suppose, let's say that you have an office in Malaysia, or you have an office in the United Kingdom or EU. So it's a matter of understanding your transfer limitations in terms of sharing these data. In the final column, as you see on the right-hand side, which gives the individuals autonomy over personal data. Now, here it's about access and correction, meaning it's quite simplified. I mean, you make sure that you have the correct information. You give them the access. If somebody asks you what type of information you carry on of them, you have the responsibility to let them know what type of information that you have. And then if there's any corrections required, you got to make them. Now, here's the newest kid in town, which is the data breach notification obligation, which was introduced recently. And that this refers that if there is a data breach or an incident, and it's likely to result in a significant harm to any person, you have the obligation to inform the affected parties as soon as possible. So this is what this obligation is all about. If you have a breach and you think it's going to cause harm, and you have an obligation now to keep them informed. Then finally, it's under that column, which is the data portability, which refers for customer requests to transmit their personal data under your control. You must oblige and share it with a machine readable format. Again, PDPC has specified that you must be able to hand it over the machine readable format. And finally, on all top of these obligations lies the accountability obligation, which is expected to demonstrate responsibility through proper management and protection of personal data. Now, this is the first part which I want to highlight, the 11 obligations. As I mentioned, any company doing business, either it's the purpose of is to make is profitable or to make profits or not for profits, you got to adhere to all these 11 obligations. So the second provision under the Data Protection Act which is the Do Not Call registry. And once again, I'm assuming that you are thorough with this. But in summary, it simply says that your sales team or your telemarketing team must ensure to check the numbers registered in DNC before they make a sales call or a telemarketing call. And suppose, let's say you're a consumer and you're a customer. Of course, you're a customer, and then you do not want to receive such messages. Simply, you need to register your number with the DNC, the Do Not Call registry. So organizations in Singapore can check the DNC list and avoid recipients such as you if you have registered your number and they won't be calling you. So the third element which I want to bring across is the mandatory obligation appointment of a obligation to appoint a DPO. So PDPC has communicated it so many times that that any organization operating in Singapore must appoint a DPO, a data protection officer. Now, bear in mind, apart from appointing a data protection officer, the PDPC has outlined what type of subject matter expert your DPO should be. So you need to ensure the DPO whom you are planning to hire or if you already have, that he's familiar with the data protection officer competency roadmap, as I'm sharing here, which is highlighted by the PDPC. So he's able to navigate and ensure that your company is in safe hands in terms of managing personal data in your organization. And at the same time, make sure to register your DPO. Now, once again, if you're an ACRA registered entity, and if you are encouraged to register your DPO in the ACRA site, and if not, then directly with the PDPC site. Now, bear in mind, apart from your shareholders or directors listed in the ACRA profile, the other person that you must include is the DPO. So you can imagine the kind of attention you need to pay in this area, right? ACRA does not ask you to register your CEO or your COO or your department heads, but it's requesting that you register your DPO in the ACRA profile. So when your customers, when they're planning to award contracts or planning to obtain services of your organization, they will want to know if you have followed the proper procedures and if you have a sound data protection management program within your organization. So when you have highlighted that you have a DPO, it's a good statement to show that you follow the procedures. So in a survey conducted in 2019 by the PDPC to find out about general awareness and appointment of DPO by the organizations, it revealed that 92% of the respondents were aware about the PDPA, but however, it was revealed that only 66% of the respondents had appointed a DPO. Now, have a look at these numbers. Now if you compare these findings of the survey with the statistics available at ACRA. Now, as of December 2020 last year, ACRA records reflected that there were approximately about 537,303 companies were registered at the time. Now, if you look at the column at the right, now you should decide in which section your company belongs. According to the percentage of the respondents of the survey, 66% had appointed a DPO. Roughly, we are looking at about 354,000 as per the size of the survey participants. And only 66% had, but the rest did not have, which means about 34%. Roughly, we are looking at about 182,000 companies did not have a DPO. So imagine yourself where your organization is, and if it is not, I think it's some time to take some action. So I'm going to share with you about a couple of data breaches and let you know why it's important. So let's try to understand why these two companies, they had a data breach and they were fined, and where they went. Let's try to find out where they went wrong. Now, on the 1st of April 2020, last year, PDPC received a complaint from that SAP Asia Private Limited has disclosed the payroll information of some of its former employees to wrong email recipients. Now, in all, personal data of 43 former employees of the organization was improperly disclosed in the incident. So here, PDPC fined, they imposed a financial penalty of $13,500 to SAP. Now look at this case. It's nothing to do with customers or any other external stakeholders, but internal. Personal data involving of your former employees. Now, I'm pretty sure like all of us, you have joined and you have former employees and they are on a payroll. So you don't escape this. So this is why it's important, just by sharing the payrolls of former employees, this company landed with a 30,500 fine. So that's why it's you cannot say that PDPC does not apply to me, doesn't apply to my organization because I don't process personal data, and but any company that employs staff can encounter challenges. So let's look at the next case, which is AGC Design. Now, AGC Design posted promotional material to a database they outsourced from a third party. But the sad thing was this database has been compiled from information found on the caveats lodged in the Singapore Land Authority, which is publicly available. You and I can basically access this information because if we have a transaction in terms related to a house of HDB or a private property. Now, the interesting fact here is that PDPC said under the section 17 of the Act, it permits or allows companies to use personal data which is publicly available, and it can be used without the consent of the individuals. So here, surprisingly, PDPC quoted, you can use if it's publicly available. But then came the rest of the issues for AGC Design. During the investigation, it came to light that they had not appointed a data protection officer, and they had not developed any policies or practices. So finally, they were fined $5,000 for these two reasons. It's not just they found and they emailed or posted the recipes, but purely for not having a DPO. This is the reason that you don't want PDPC to come to your doorstep, because if you have not fulfilled the requirements, then you're going to face challenges. So how do you manage the privacy in your organization? Now bear in mind, you need to have a sound data protection management program within your organization to manage this. Now, once again, PDPC has laid out very clearly in a 4-step data protection management program. And here, if I take you through this process, you're looking at the first step, you're looking at the governance and risk assessment. You do a risk assessment about the company and understand where are your risks, and at the second stage, you develop a system to put the processes in place. Basically, you're looking at, it can be unique to your own organization, and you must maintain the core elements that are critical in managing your organization's privacy journey at the second part. And at the third stage, you're basically looking at operationalizing it and ensuring that all of your staff are aware and who are involved, and then they do their part. And at the fourth stage, basically it's about maintenance, basically responding if there's an incident, just like I mentioned in the two for these companies, or ensuring that your staff are thorough with the policies that are available and they practice, and they are part of your team who's going to help you to safeguard the organization in terms of a data breach. So here's another interesting fact that I want to highlight about an investigation process. Now, in case if you're not aware, there are certain processes that PDPC follows. Like, let me take you through those. Now, I mentioned earlier, PDPC does not come to your doorstep. At least, at this moment, they don't come. They must receive a complaint. Only if they receive a complaint, they'll be at your doorstep. So now when they receive a complaint, first they will try to determine if it involves a collection, use, or disclosure of personal data. So these include things such as your full name, NRIC, or a FIN number. So if these personal information are not there, which means there will be no investigation of the matter, and it does not involve a breach. But if it involves, then PDPC will carry out a fact gathering process and commence the investigation. Now, once an investigation has been completed, then the outcome will be made available to the organization and to its stakeholders. Now, again, the interesting factor here is now under the framework, PDPC will take the following 4 enforcement actions on the organization, either of them. I've listed on the left-hand side. So let's go through one by one. They could do a suspension or a discontinuation, which means in general, PDPC may discontinue the investigation if they feel that the impact of the incident is too low, or if the parties involved in the matter have mutually agreed to settle the matter, or if the parties involved in the matter has commenced legal proceedings. In that case, they will not carry out and they will discontinue. They may discontinue. That's one of the things. Then the second is an undertaking, a voluntary undertaking, where under the section 48L of the PDPA, in certain circumstances, they will accept a written voluntary undertaking. It means to request for a voluntary undertaking for a company to, to let the PDP, the regulator know what exactly took place. But to do that, you must have a sound and acceptable data management program. If you cannot demonstrate that you have a good management program, they will not allow you to do an undertaking. So if you have obtained the data protection trust mark, then it's a good chance that you can request for an undertaking. Then the third is an expedited decision. Expedited decision process allows an investigation to be completed in a significantly like a shorter period, and while trying to achieve the same enforcement outcome. So in other words, it means that if you just say, okay, I accept it, it's my fault, and I commit to oblige in future and create an environment to manage personal data in a better way. So please give me a warning or a smaller fine. You can virtually request, but the final decision is with the PDPC. So if they say yes, but then the final one is a full length investigation process. Now, for incidents which they have assessed and if it has a high impact, PDPC will definitely launch a full investigation because these are usually incidents where a large number of individuals were affected and personal data disclosed could cause a significant harm. Such investigation processes is likely to be like prolonged, even PDPC has indicated it could even go up to 18 months. So just think about it you just have to, apart from, running your business, now here you've got to stop and answer the queries and facilitate PDPC to complete the investigation process. So once they have taken a decision, either 1, 2, or 3, or 4, then if you look at the column on the right side, you'll see they will take up enforcement action. So which means either based on the investigation, they will say, okay, there's no breach, or they can say they'll just give you a warning, a direction, or a financial penalty. Or unfortunately, if it's an unfortunate situation, you will receive both a direction plus a financial penalty. So these are the likelihoods of things that can happen should a data breach occurs in any organization. So why? So this is a reason, again, the numbers says it all. As you see, according to the Singapore Cyber Landscape report published by the Cyber Security Agency, Singapore companies and individuals experience a lot of threats. If you look at the companies had 495 website defacements, 16,000 cyber crimes just within a year, right? Online, 12,000 plus online cheating. So you need to understand, as an organization, you have the obligation to safeguard the citizens here, the locals and the residents. So to ensure that you are responsible in managing their personal information and when you are processing them in your organization. So not just that, also I would like to bring attention, if you're a Singapore company and if you are if you have dealings in I mean, of course, you have, you are dealing with organizations in the EU, or probably you may be targeting citizens or residents of the EU. So the General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR, basically regulates the processing of European citizens' personal information. So this applies to organizations both, as I mentioned, inside and outside of the European Union that process personal data of EU citizens. This regulation came into effect, the GDPR came into effect on the 25th of May 2018, and now the supervisory authorities have started imposing steep fines up to $20 million, or up 4% of the annual turnover. I'm also not sure if you were aware, on the 16th of July this year, the Luxembourg Data Protection Authority imposed a fine, that's a record-breaking fine of 476 million pounds. I'm sorry, 746 million pounds on Amazon for alleged violations of the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation. So it's still under investigation, but so this is the thing. So for companies in Singapore, so that are already like compliant with Singapore Personal Data Protection Act, this raises the question, what additional steps that they need to take in order to ensure compliance. So why are we here? So that's one of the reasons, we are here because at Obidon, we have realized with all these regulations and obligations, fines, and data breaches, and even cyber attacks, the role of the data, the DPO has ever become challenging. But this is the reason, we have come up with a solution to simplify the process and manage the privacy program in a way that it will not put a lot of pressure on the DPO or its users. So we will be launching our Obidon platform in Singapore soon, and we will share more details in the coming days. So this basically is a 5-pillar solution approach that we are going to introduce, which is going to be a process that will be seamlessly, it's an easy process for the DPO to manage the day-to-day functions of the organization. So we will basically have a simplified chart, and there are a couple of interesting features. I mean, many interesting features that we have stored. In terms of tracking, arranging, understanding the policies, or even like protecting the data, we have a very comprehensive solution that is in place. So you will hear a lot from us in the coming days about the platform, and I think we will also give a link. Probably my colleague Novia will be sharing a link if you are interested to get a free account of the platform. We at the end of the seminar, this webinar, we will be sharing a link. So that's it from my end, and now I will pass it over to Novia, who will take you through with the rest of the program. Thank you, everyone. Hi, Novia.
Yep, hi. Okay, so thank you so much for that sharing, Mr. Sam. I definitely learned a thing or two. That we're going to go and check if it's updated on Accra, and a lot of other pointers that you have shared is very beneficial. Let us now address some questions that we have. Okay, the first question that even at the start we received was one of the participants asked, is it possible to get blanket permission to use their email for anything?
The answer is actually no. You can ask permission, but you need to specify the purpose already. So let's say a good example I can tell you is right now we've got a few participants here, And if we are collecting their emails, I mean, you are going to share your email for the purpose of getting to know more details about privacy. So for this, it's permissible, and if you give us permission, we will contact you. However, tomorrow, if we call you and try to sell an insurance package, you will be very unhappy about it, because you gave the email address not for us, not to sell any other thing or any other services, purely for the purpose of getting to know more information about privacy and data protection. So we have the obligation to adhere, to fulfill and to honor your request. So you cannot just use information or send information as you please. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, okay, definitely. Thank you for that. Next question. What recourse do I have if people still call me after my number is on the DNC list?
It's a good question, yes. So basically, it's not acceptable, because if you have requested and if you have listed your number and if you still keep calling, that means the organization is not checking the DNC list properly. So you have all the you can make a complaint with the PDPC, and the matter will be taken up by the PDPC at that point. Or if at the same time, you can also inform the company concerned that despite your number being listed, that they continue to do so, and action could be taken against them. So if you do receive such messages, immediately please make a complaint with the PDPCS.
Okay, we have J. Tarani Thurasingam, who has asked, does the DPO need to have any particular qualifications?
Well, Tarani, right? Yes, Tarani, yeah. So PDPC has not specified anything at the moment, but however, if you look through their communications, they have highlighted I shared with you the data protection, the roadmap. So these are the type of the areas that your data protection officer should be thorough with. And at the same time, the regulator has listed some of the institutes that offer qualifications and certification programs, some of the local prominent organizations. So you can and some of them also have government funding. So you can refer to them, and they may be able to onboard you and give you training. It is available. But however, PDPC has not specified. The thing is, as at this moment, we have seen there are 3 types of DPOs in the market. One is the highly qualified DPO, the arrowed in Singapore terms. Over the meeting, we decide, okay, you are the DPO, and you manage. It could be someone who the operations manager or the HR, or the double heading DPO, or the IT manager or the HR manager is by default is the DPO. So as again, the simple answer to your question is, well, you need knowledge. You need to be thorough with what you are doing, and because this is a big responsibility. It's not difficult, but it's a responsibility. And if you understand the pain points, and if you create a good data protection management program, of course you can. But at the same time, bear in mind, it's in well demand. If PDPC says that every company must have a DPO, individuals who are here, and it's a big opportunity for you as well. So if you have the qualifications, you'll be handpicked. So yes, so that's something that you need to consider, following some of the courses available in the market.
Okay, sure. So Mr. Suresh Kumar has asked, if there is no DPO in the company, what's the penalty given?
Well, Suresh, as I mentioned to you, it's actually PDPC does. I don't know whether you own a company or you're working for a company. At this moment of the details what we have, PDPC will not come to your doorstep. but you will need to designate a DPO. It's a mandatory obligation that you identify, and it's an obligation. So you cannot, if you still don't have a DPO, well, I don't know what to say, because I would suggest that you talk to the management and immediate, or if you are the managing director, immediately appoint a DPO. I mentioned to you because, you know, if I remember the case that I took up, a company that was sending material, they escaped the main offense. They thought first it was an offense, but it wasn't, because they gathered the information from the caveats lodged in the Singapore Land Authority. So PDPC said, okay, that's fine, you can use if it's publicly available, but because of that, you brought the PDPC regulators to your office, and then when they do due diligence, they realize that they have not appointed the DPO. So, and they didn't have any policies and procedures in place. Straight $5,000. So that's the case that I can tell you at this point. So it's an obligation you need to fulfill. There's no, bear in mind, Singapore is a country, as Singapore regulator, it's a mandatory obligation, but certain countries, it's not mandatory, but Singapore, it's mandatory to appoint a data protection officer.
Thank you, Sam. There's a Ms. Sarasan Raymond who has asked, may I know, as a software company, I just got my ISO 27001. I do not use data to do cold calling and do not store personal data. Do I still need to register a DPO? So that I think you have covered, right?
Yes, because as I mentioned, may, in my first case, Gauri, I mentioned, like, you may think that, you know, I'm not processing information. I don't have a large database. I don't have a sales team. But however, we realized that, you know, a company got into trouble for former employees' payslips, right? So because of this, it's not because of that, but particularly as an organization registered and operating in Singapore, you are not exempted only. I mean, even I mentioned, even not-for-profit organizations. If your intention is not profits, there are voluntary organizations, church, religious organizations. They still have to appoint a DPO. And if you look at the records, most of the VWOs, voluntary welfare organizations, have got into trouble for in the past few years for not for not adhering to data privacy obligations.
Okay, Mr. Suresh Kumar has asked another question. Let's address that. Is there a penalty that suspends the activity of the business for a specified duration, or the suspension till the investigation is over? If so, how long can a lengthy investigation go on? Can it be for 3 to 6 months? And he's asking, what's the maximum based on past experience that you may have?
Well, basically, I would put it this way, like, I know a couple of companies, you know, they have breaches in their online systems. So online registry, like, you know, you create an account and there was a cyber attack and the data was, so at that particular time, you got to ground your online site. So put it this way, if your sales are sales generated 100% from your online store, and if there's a data breach, is a hacking or a cyber attack, well, you got to, you know, stop your transaction and ensure, like, you need to find out the fault, right? So in that sense, yes, your business gets affected. So at the same time, if you have limited number of staff and if you have to answer the regulators, and you're going to spend more time answering these questions and give reasons. So I cannot speak on behalf of PDPC. Let's be, you know, I'm not representing PDPC, but if there may be situations where the final decision is with them. They may you know, take a decision that is they feel which is best at the moment. So it could happen. Yes.
Oh, thank you. So this one of the questions that I think we would like to hear also is that, Sam, could you share with us what type of liability is a DPO exposed to? So, you know, sometimes you might, in organizations, you might get error to be the data protection officer, but I'm sure it comes with a lot of responsibility. So maybe you want to share with us some of the obligations that they have?
Yeah, so thankfully, Gauri, there's a bit of relief for DPOs in Singapore. Bear in mind, there are no jail terms. So some of the countries in the region, so if it's found, if it's proven, the DPO could be jailed. So that's one relief, I believe, for the DPOs. I'm sure the DPOs are aware of it. So Singapore does not have any jail term for a DPO. And at the same time, like it's about, as I mentioned, like, if you follow the process, the 4-step process, or Obedience has created the 5-pillar process, which is basically, if you do not have any experience, I would highly recommend that you basically go through the PDPC site and get be thorough with with their offerings. And like, as I mentioned, there are a couple of institutes that are offering courses related to privacy, so you can enroll. What else I can say? You got to be able to, like, be competent. You cannot just say, I mean, a fresher. If you're being enrolled, as a question, if you're being enrolled, it's a big area. It's a lot of things to be learned, and it's a process. So I suggest you speak to the management and get yourself equipped with all the necessary knowledge.
That's right. So just coincidentally, when you're speaking of other countries that might have the DPO jail, we have a question from our participant who asks, how different are the various PDPA laws in different countries? And could you share on which ones are the most restricted? Would you know of any?
Of course, I can give you a lot. I mean, basically, I am monitoring the regulator movements in most parts of the world. Especially at this moment, you see, like, China have tightened up their regulations. There are 3 regulatory bodies: the PISS, there's 3 other. The names doesn't come to my mind. So you cannot underestimate. China is building a stringent data privacy, plan. And then again, in the region, I can tell you, like, there are differences. Like, I mean, in Malaysia, if you're operating in Malaysia and if you're offered a fine, basically you can negotiate the fine. So that's what we hear. But here it's not negotiable, right? I mean, Malaysia, and at the same time, there's different I think certain regulators say it's mandatory to have a DPO if they process more than 500 data subjects. Meaning, if you have a database, or if you have a customer base of more than 500, and if you are managing personal data, then you have to appoint a DPO. If not, it's not mandatory. But Singapore, you're not exempted. You have to, except for the government institutes, you have to apply. Yeah.
Okay, sure. And just now we touched on mandatory to have a DPO. So they've requested, is it mandatory to submit the DPO to ACRA? Is it mandatory for them to do that?
Again, yes, it's not mandatory to register the DPO with ACRA. That's as per PDPC. It is mandatory to appoint the DPO. It is not mandatory, but you are encouraged. You are encouraged to register your DPO. Bear that in mind. So suppose if you are not registered with ACRA, you are encouraged to register your DPO at the PDPC site itself. Because I'm not too sure how it works, but I understand if you are not an entity that is not registered in ACRA, then you are encouraged, but it's not mandatory.
Okay, thank you. So in the interest of time, maybe we'll just take one last question that we have from participant that has asked, can our company buy PDPA insurance?
Oh, yes. There are a couple of players in the market. I'm sure, if you look and if you make an inquiry, there's cyber insurance, because bear in mind, it is highly encouraged for you if you are processing data and if you think there's going to be a breach, because it will be beneficial for you to have, because when you look at the cases, I mean, we've seen companies, hiring lawyers, specialized lawyers in data privacy could be costly for any organization, and the process. So if you think, yes, there is, to answer your question, yes, there is insurance available. You can check in the market, and they'll be able to assist you, any of the players. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Seth. Quite a number of questions. They were pretty interesting and got answered. So I think that's all for the Q&A. If there's anything that we'd like to add, please proceed. If not, I'd like to hand over the time to Novia.
Well, thank you, Gauri. Thank you, Sam, for answering those questions and for the great presentations. It was really a pleasure to have you with us, all of you. So this concludes the webinar, and thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed these presentations. By the way, you might have already received a message on Obidin Special Registrations link on the chat side for you to register in Obidin's platform. For those who have not done so, please feel free to click on the link, and we hope to see you using Obidin soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye.